And I think you're absolutely right about all of that.
Hi there, and welcome to Hav and Charles Talk Comics. I'm your host, Charles Herring, here with my co-host and very, very good friend, Javier Gonzalez. Hi, Hav. How are you?
I'm good, Charles. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Today we, like every time, are going to talk about two comics here in episode 13 of season 3. The first comic we'll be talking about for once is the one I suggested. It's called Superman's Secret Identity by Kurt Busiek, and with art by
Stuart Immonen.
That it's really funny because I'm bad about that, but that was in my head. I was like, I know that one. Okay. And then Hov's suggestion was, oh crap, I'm blanking on the name of Miracle Man.
Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle. And it was written by somebody and drawn by somebody as well.
Tom King and Mitch Gerads.
That's right. It was Tom King. I read another Tom King one even before I was looking up. And I was like, I want to see what else Tom King had did. And then I saw something and then I read that first before I read Miracle Man. I was like, oh man, this is really good. Miracle Man can't be as good. And then I was wrong because Miracle Man was as good. So
Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle. Hey,
Miracle Man is a sole separate property that has...
It's a miracle that I liked what you suggested.
No, that's usually true, but
no, that's not usually true. It is when you delve off into the New Gods.
Well, okay, we'll get to all that, but the New Gods thing, just so you know, it's not. I know you have a big problem with the whole "we're stupid humans. There's no way we could have done anything in our history. We needed help from extraterrestrials or new gods." You know, people coming. I think that's one of your issues with the Jack Kirby.
No,
Eternals.
No, that's not the issue.
Okay.
I just didn't think they were very good.
I see. Okay. Well,
I mean, the premise, you say that, but then when you read the stuff, you don't really like them. You just do the Hav thing of not being able to admit that something is not as good as you would like it to be.
That is, well, you're right. It was sometimes it is not as good as I want to be. I think the overall concept is good, and I think what we're going to read with Tom King, and for example, I really like Cosmic Odyssey, which very much lived in the fourth world.
You did.
And I just think, you talk about comics of their time. I mean, back then, I think it was a kind of revolutionary what he was doing in the, late 60s, early 70s. Does it hold up? A lot of stuff from back then doesn't hold up. But anyways, yay. We're season 3, episode 13. I, for some reason, didn't realize we were so far along into it, but...
Yeah, you thought we were way back on episode 12.
Right. I can't...
So you were so far off. It was
counting is hard.
It was embarrassing for you to think we were so far behind in this.
Right.
It's only one episode that you thought we were. I mean, it's not that's. I only remember because I actually have them all on my computer. You knew how many have dropped if you thought this was 12 because we've got 11 out when we were recording this. So
before we got on the recording or started the recording. Rolling the tape, even though we don't use tape anymore.
Oh yeah, no, I'm on a reel to reel now. I said forget this stuff; it's going right into reel to reel. I'm not going to edit online anymore. I'm literally gonna edit on tape. I decided to really, 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 really make editing hard, especially since I have no idea how to do that.
Go analog? Is that what would be going analog would mean?
We're going analog, yes. And I had to work really hard to run the internet thing we're using to record this into a reel-to-reel.
I don't even want to think about the mechanics behind that. Before we started recording, I had the episodes off by 1. But I really mean, before I sat down last night, I don't know, to look at it, I thought we were I don't keep track, and maybe I don't listen to every episode when it drops. I don't know. Sometimes I do. I didn't think we were so far along. I'm kind of proud that because we had some delays, and there were some weeks where we didn't record as often as maybe we would have liked. So we're on track here. Is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we've been cranking one out. I mean,
recently.
we've been really getting things done quickly.
You made your. That's okay. You made yourself laugh when you said cranking one out.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to make it worse, and I was like, how can I make that worse? Just as subtly, but nope. And I couldn't. I couldn't get a rise out of it.
Yeah, you couldn't get something to come of that.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, before we get into the minutia of each of these stories, I do want to say, in reading both of these together, my humble opinion is these two combined may be this episode may be of the together best comic books we've read together ever. That you suggested and that I suggested, where I liked them so much. I know we've had other ones where I suggested something that we both like, but I think just these two were next level.
Well,
so I'm just going to put that out there.
I read yours, and when I got through it, I was like, wow. Now, I'd read Secret Identity before, but it's been a number of years since I read Superman Secret Identity. So I didn't remember I remembered that I liked it back then, but that doesn't always, I remembered really, really liking it back then.
Right.
But I was like, surely this cannot meet that same level that Mr. Miracle met. I'm like, I'm going to be let down. Hav clearly suggested the superior comic. And then I reread Superman Secret Identity, and I was like, holy crap, I would put them on similar levels. Now they're not similar comics in any way. You're talking about two completely different ways to look at comics and how comics work in a great, wonderful way, but they're still both just, holy crap, these are great fucking comic books. And I mean, I not to steal your thunder, because I really mean it. It's just not just a verbal tick. These are great comic books. They're literally great. See, I got into it before.
Oh, there you go. Hey, score your bingo card, everybody. So, and the other, not much in common, but I will say this. It is two groups of two creative teams taking on well-established properties and putting their own spin on it in a wonderful, unique, different, never done before way. And besides that, I don't know that you can say that there's too much similarity, because you have, obviously, Superman created way back when by a great creative team of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. And I don't know that anybody had done something like this before. I might be wrong, but if you want to just start getting into it.
Well, if you read the beginning, they had kind of done something like this before, and that's where he got the idea.
Oh, I did not read I don't usually read the intro notes. Sorry.
Okay, so I
just want to jump into it without any. Well, I do that on purpose.
Okay. Well, you can go back and read it.
Well,
nothing stops you from.
I did.
Nothing stops you from going back and reading it. So
now I will.
Kurt Busiek started it with talking about the Crisis of Infinite Earths. And he said, to me, it was something else entirely. It was the story of the Superboy of Earth Prime, the young Clark Kent of one of DC's alternate Earths, the one that is supposed to be the real world with no superheroes or aliens or monsters, with a minor exception or two here or there. In this, DC heroes were all known as comic book characters. So that's what I'm not saying he did take it a completely different way, but that's where he got the idea. So it wasn't, they kind of had this as didn't even in Crisis of Infinite Earths, wasn't he the one that ended up being the big bad in Crisis of Infinite Earths? Or was that Crisis 2 that Superboy was the bad guy? Oh, it was Crisis 2. It was the next Crisis.
Yeah, and it was a different Crisis.
Yeah, because it
was Anti-Monitor in Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Then they trapped them. And it was Superboy, Superman Prime and Lois Lane Prime in just an alternate mini dimension where they're basically trapped in a box, and Superboy is beating on the walls until he explodes yes, okay, because he lost his,
yeah, you're right.
Solitary confinement.
He lost his mind.
Yeah, he lost his mind because Superman had everything he wanted and Lois Lane had everything she wanted, and he had to watch the two of them canoodle. I mean, watching old people fuck for eons is probably going to drive anybody insane.
Unless that's your bag.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. What I think Hav is saying is that is his bag, baby.
I don't know where you found this book that says how to find old people. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not yesing.
Yeah.
That. Okay.
Oh, you already did. And by the way,
I know.
Hav,
I can't even help it.
Hav, it's not a book. It's the internet. Go ahead and look for it. Oh, wait, you already have it bookmarked.
No,
it's okay.
I am so worried. I would never. There's stuff where I'm like, that's an interesting news story. But then I think about my internet search history and it being a weird, like, search history on something, or like, really not really bad things, but like
private browsing. You open the private.
No, I'd say I don't believe. Nope.
You open
that's all a myth.
Well, no, I'm just
They can-
saying. You're only hiding this from Julie. So you open private browsing, and then your search history doesn't come up. Plus, you can delete your search history if you're worried about that. But that looks suspicious if she goes in and looks at your browser, and it's not all these comic book sites and whatever. You've just deleted everything.
I'm not even, for some reason, it's just as weird. I think anything that you type in, put on, I mean, even if you use it, it's going to be there for, I don't know. Don't, I'm old manning right now. Don't.
I'm not saying that Google's not saving it. So private browsing with DuckDuckGo.
There you go. I saw the commercials.
Yes.
Commercials work. Kurt Busiek. This might be the best Kurt Busiek thing I've ever read.
It really is an amazing comic book. The premise of it is this is the real world. A young man is born in Kansas to parents whose last name is the Kents, and they think it's funny as fuck because they have a horrible sense of humor to name their son Clark. So this kid in a small town in Kansas is
Pickettville.
named, yes, Pickettville, Kansas, is named Clark Kent. And
that is a great bit.
It is.
You know, people have done that, I'm sure.
Yeah. People are garbage. So, I mean, you really legitimately have to think about your kid's name. You can't just pull a name out of your butt or do one. Do not name your kid based on a bit.
So, good point. Good point at this point to mention this. In college, I know James listens. I don't know if any of the other Austin guys that I went to UT Austin with listen. We all knew a guy. His name was Justin. His last name was Case. Justin Case.
I was going to say his last name was Time. So
no.
I was like, it's just in time. And no, you're like, it's just in case. Oh, that poor son of a bitch.
He was a mechanical engineer. He was a very smart dude. One time, he was in one of those math classes that was like a big survey class where it was like a little bitty mini stadium with probably 200 plus kids.
Yeah.
Or students. We're not kids at that point, I guess. Scantron exam, multiple choice. They run him through and they get the scores out like later that day, and he goes out and he's looking for his name and his score, or they give him I forget how they worked it so that it was but he's not, he's looking, and so he goes to the TA and they're like, oh, I saw that filled out just in case. I thought it was a joke, so I threw it out. Your Scantron. He's like, you didn't check the roll? I mean, I'm enrolled here. I'm on the class roster. He's like, I'm sorry. I just saw just in case. I thought somebody filled out an extra one and was doing a bit, so I threw it out. So we had to retake the exam, like right then and there. But I mean, just so doing bits to your kids has repercussions, people.
Yeah,
real life repercussions.
I really think that is more on the TA than it is.
Yeah.
That even his parents, although his parents, look, I'm sure his parents are fine people, but yeah, don't do a bit with your kid's name. Just don't. If you want to do a bit with your name, go legally change your name. If that's your thing, don't force your kinks onto your kids.
I knew nothing about this comic book when you suggested it, other than it was going to be about Superboy or Superman from the cover. So I thought it was just going to be another origin, like his take on his origin kind of thing, or in Smallville or something. So when it was, like you said, the real world where Superman's in the comics, and then the poor kid, this Clark, every birthday, every Christmas, everybody's getting him Superman swag and Superman gifts, and I get it. It's just really funny. Oh, and it made me think of Gwenpool, right? Didn't Gwenpool come from the real world?
Yes, Gwenpool came from the real world. She knows all the secret identities,
but then she goes to the 616.
That's right. She gets into the 616. Yes.
Okay. So it made me think of that a little bit. No, that's it. Okay. I just wanted to mention Gwenpool for some reason too.
Okay. Well, I'm always for when I released our trailer, since Gwenpool is our most popular, that our number one most downloaded episode is the Gwenpool episode. I put Gwenpool as one of the keywords on the new trailer. After almost three seasons, we finally have a season 1 trailer for the podcast.
Yay!
So, I put Gwenpool in just as you can do a bit with keywords, because I did a bit because it's Batman the Beast with 2 backs and Gwenpool. Well, actually, it's Gwenpool and the Batman and the Beast with 2 backs.
KG Beast. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, and I'm okay with bits, just not with your kid's name. Don't drag your children into this. So, he's just inundated. I mean, his whole room is just, he's talking about it, and it's really the whole thing is just narrated first person from Clark Kent. And it is the story of his life, and it is touching, and it just fills you with joy and hope and happiness, and it's everything a Superman comic should be without actually having what you think of as Superman, because it's just sweet. And it is an origin story. I mean, it's completely an origin story. He because of this whole Clark Kent thing, he gets it from everybody. I mean, everybody just, oh, hey, Superboy,
the bullies at school.
The bullies at school bully him, and he doesn't even have the advantage of, he's in the suburbs of this. He doesn't even work on a farm, so he's not a big, strong kid from lifting bales of hay all the time. But he likes to be alone. He talks about liking to be alone, and he goes off in the woods all the time, and he types in, oh wait, they do have a barn, because he goes in the barn, so maybe it just doesn't seem like a working farm. So he's got land, they have a barn, he goes in the barn and types on an old typewriter just to be alone and to keep his thoughts to himself about how awful it is to be that. And then he, out of nowhere, just gets powers.
I was going to mention, I like the fact they don't go too into the weeds trying to explain all this. You get little references, you get clues, but Kurt Busiek, author, and the artist Immonen don't preoccupy themselves with it was a meteor. I mean, they mention a meteor. They mention 12 others.
Later in the comic, when things are going around, he's trying to figure it out. And they're investigating people that with meteors, etc. So yeah, there is a different thing, but he starts flying and he starts being Superman. Oh well, Superboy.
All the powers.
Yeah, he has all the powers,
but not overpowered.
No, he's definitely pretty mainline Superman powered though. He is almost completely indestructible.
But they can bring him down. I mean, remember?
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
I'm jumping ahead.
I understand, but he escapes. You can bring down I'm saying mainline Superman. You can bring him down. You can slow him down, but you can't keep him down. That's what I mean, because they were never able to keep him down. So I mean, he has super hearing, he has supervision. I love when he first realizes he has X-ray vision. He says, "Yeah, I looked in the girls' locker room, but then I stopped doing that because I don't know what my X-ray vision is going to do to people." And I was like, okay, I like that smart kid. He's like, oh crap, X-rays cause cancer. Yeah, maybe one quick peek in the girls' locker room, and then he realized he doesn't like watching girls poop, and then he stopped.
I didn't even think. Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. Alrighty then.
In fairness, I did not think of that at the time. It just popped into my head there. What horrible thing could you see if you looked in the girls' locker room and that's it? Oh my lord, no! I'm never using this power again.
He likes being alone, and I like how every so often, I think it's an every issue thing where he just goes out into space and just gets up high and just looks at the Earth. And there's some really great art. Yeah, when they do that. Early on, he tries to talk to his mom and dad to try to feel them out to see if they know something they're not telling him. And well,
he keeps asking both of them if he's adopted, and neither one will answer the fucking question. So honestly, at this point, I don't know if he's adopted or not, because they're like, every child feels this way, and I'm like, dude, just say no, you're not adopted. I mean, if a kid is worried about that, what I'm saying is, I don't like his parents.
Don't like his parents, or yes, there's that, and I think not obviously, but a conscious decision by Busiek to leave it ambiguous.
Yes, I understand that. I'm just saying it's just kind of you notice later on as he becomes an adult, his parents aren't around anymore, and they don't say they died. I am done with you, motherfuckers.
I think I remember one where maybe it's Lois that's older. I thought maybe there was one where the grandma is around, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
anyways,
I don't know. You may be right. It was just wow. Everything about his parents is like, come on, guys.
So early on, he is starting to do stuff, and he when he's fine, one of the first things he sees a flood happening and helps out, and then of course people are noticing the flying man.
He saved somebody, and the person he saved is like, oh my god, there's a flying man, and this is somebody.
Brings media attention.
Yes.
There's a reporter. Well, he approaches her.
He approaches a reporter, and he starts talking to her anonymously, and then she really, really, really wants this story, and she's building trust, and he has decided he's going to possibly come out. So there's a big Halloween festival. I was amused at, just from a writing standpoint, they have this Halloween festival in the town, and Busiek goes out of the way to explain that this is weird and this is just what this town does. I'm like, I didn't think, there was just that bit right there that I was like, I don't think you needed to explain a small town having a festival. I mean,
Halloween festival.
Yeah, I mean, it might be outside of the norm, but there's small towns do things. It was like, it just happens to be this way this small town does. I'm like, I don't think you actually need that. It was just one thing, and I'm not, he's a great writer, but it was just like, wait, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why did that need to be explained? But he goes out dressed as Superman. That one
a gift that his uncle gave him years ago or something.
Yes, that when it didn't fit, now it fits. And so he's there and he's getting ragged on because his parents. The one thing that his parents did that I liked, because evidently they were possibly paying attention. They were like, "Well, oh, we were beginning to think you kind of didn't like the whole Superman Clark Kent thing." I'm like, really? Really, he didn't like, you didn't notice that everything went in the damn closet? That was one of the bits I liked, was he just dumps it all unopened into his closet.
Well, speaking of that, there's a scene, a few panels where he's talking, because you're right, he narrates this. He doesn't fit in with the jocks, obviously. And then the nerds, he goes and sits with the nerds, quote unquote nerd table. They all assume because his name's Clark Kent that he knows about comic books. And one of them asks him about, hey, Teen Titans this or that, and is Wonder Girl really a part of it? And he's like, I don't know, man. Like, he's like, I'm not, just because my name's Clark Kent doesn't mean I'm into comic books. And I was like, I could see pushing against that if your name is Clark Kent. It was just kind of funny, like, poor dude.
Yes.
This is not fun.
Yeah.
Anyways, that made me think of that.
And beyond that, it's the small town thing. In a bigger town, if you went to school in a bigger town, it might be better. There's a bigger group, and there's more than just, hey, there's jocks and hey, there's nerds. I mean, there's more. Plus, Busiek's kind of an older dude, so you have to. That's the only thing there is in high school is jocks and nerds.
Yeah, there's no goths or new wave or theater kids or I don't know.
Yes.
Trying to think of other stuff, which all overlap, by the way. Let's see, what else? Oh, so the reporter, she goes cuckoo crazy.
She does. Well, we don't find that out quite yet. So he's at because we find that out after there is at the festival, there's an explosion. And I mean a giant gas explosion, and people are going to die. And actually, some people did, because we find out some people did die. Okay. At the end, some, because I mean, it was it was a gigantic gas explosion. And he immediately leaps into saving people just because that's who he is. You have to give the kid credit. He wants to help people. He has these powers, and he decided to help people. Now, sure, he wanted a little fame on it, but he'd like some acknowledgement of what he does, and that's understandable, especially from somebody young. So he goes and he helps, and then he hears the young lady that's his neighbor.
Cassie.
I wanted to call her Lana, because I mean it's just got it literally has all of the except great parents. He had everything Clark Kent had except great parents.
I want his dad to die of a heart attack on the farm.
I do not want that. I'm just saying he did not have the same. I think they were good parents, because actually, okay, I've been slagging him for the name thing, but when he was asking them about the adoption thing, they were taking that as a completely different question and assuaging him. It was very nice, their responses, but they could have also said, no, you're not adopted. That's all I'm saying.
Just point blank.
No, you're not adopted, but a lot of times we all have that kind of feeling, and when you're growing up, and all the things they said were good, except for the fact that neither one of them would say you're not adopted.
So answer the question, Mom. God damn it. Yes or no?
So he hears, because he has that hearing, he hears Cassie, or he sees her through he finds her with the X-ray vision. He goes in, and she is trapped under an I-beam, this giant I-beam. And so he lifts it up to save her life. And then the jock, well, he had saved the jock, hadn't he?
I think, yes, he had.
Yeah, he saved the jock, the main bully. And then he lifted up the I-beam, and he's holding it when people rush in. And they see him, and the reporter is there, and she says something. And then he realizes in that split second, holy crap, I can't.
She set this all up.
Well, I couldn't tell if he thought that or he just thought that.
He kind of felt that. It was too on the nose.
It was
she was
fairly
right there.
And beyond that, he realized, holy crap, everybody in the world's going to know what's going to happen, because he had been worried about the government's going to do experiments on me. They might do that, and I don't know. And so he then collapses under the weight of the I-beam, knowing it won't hurt him. And then now no one thinks that. And they even investigated him, because all of a sudden the government,
the
feds are there because they'd been hearing about this, and they were investigating it. And they come in and they actually clear him because they had his early youth medical records. So they look at all this and they're like, no, this is a normal kid. He's fine. So Clark Kent has been cleared, even though he seemed like he was a good candidate there because he was holding that beam up. But everybody else was just like, wow, good job. I will say it changed the way they thought about him. They're like, wow, it's too bad you're not actually Superboy, but thank you. And then Cassie went off with the jock who had a broken arm, who did thank him for being a hero. It was a nice wrap up of, sorry, am I waving? It was a nice wrap up of that part of the story where he realized, hey, it's probably a better idea if nobody knows who I am.
Because he was talking about wanting to go public, maybe just get some money so he could buy his parents a nice house. I think he mentions at one point, because he's not. You never get the impression that he's doing it because he wants to be rich and famous. It's like, if I let them know I have these powers, maybe I can help out my family a little bit.
Yeah.
Of course, that all goes away because of the crazy reporter lady. I mean, literally insane, because he mentions that they're not going to prosecute her; they're going to put her away in some kind of institution.
Oh yeah, because she went nuts.
They found all the stuff in her trunk or whatever.
Yeah, that she blew
to
those
cause the
people
explosion.
Up. Yeah, it was.
Hey, people do weird things when they really want to get ahead financially, professionally. It's sad, but it happens. I was going to mention something, and I'm completely blanking when you were talking a second ago. Train of thought completely left the station. Choo choo.
So he goes.
Gosh darn it. Okay.
So he goes off to college, and then he becomes a writer at the New Yorker.
If your name is Clark Kent,
and I know, but
come on,
I know he's getting razzed.
I know he talks about it.
Yeah, he's getting razzed in the newsroom, and as he says, I'm not a reporter, I'm a writer, and he writes articles. You're reporting, but he's a writer, so he does long form, dry as dirt things. That's from what I mean, based on the titles, you're like, oh my god, I'm a writer, and I mean, I like some stuff in the New Yorker, but those are the ones I read enough of it to get the gist and go, okay, yeah, I'm done. So he's there and he's trying to live a life because he's still very on his own.
Very isolated.
Yeah,
I remember I wrote it down and I didn't look. Back in before he leaves, at the end of that last thing we were talking about with the explosion, the feds check him out. They look at his medical records. He'd had a broken leg. He'd had a chipped tooth. And that's where they clear him. Because of when he was younger. I guess because they're assuming that if he's this Superman type person, he had to have had his powers forever.
Yes.
So they immediately, and I think they mentioned something like, Clark Kent, that would have been funny, but oh well, not the kid.
Yeah, and it's not even realistic that out of all of these, it's the Clark Kent.
Yeah.
So
okay, sorry, that's what I wanted to mention. But you're right. It goes to the Big Apple, which Metropolis was obviously a analog for. You're right. He's not a writer. He's for the New Yorker. He's not working for the New York Post or the New York Times.
He's not a beat reporter out there on the street. He is literally just a magazine writer. He writes for magazines. He's a reporter, but he feels it's different, and it is completely different. But he's just getting razzed by the bullpen, and then he decides he needs to go out and hang out and meet friends. Actually, he's told by his editor. His editor
that's what I wanted to mention.
His editor said, "You write great, but it's just like you're writing from you have a great perspective, but it's just so dry and not. It's almost alien.
Heart.
Yeah, no heart.
Heart.
You've got to meet more people and stop clicking your pen, and then you have to. Sorry, you got to go out and meet more people. You have to find, you already have your voice, but you have to put some more emotion into it. You have to put more of you in it to let people feel what you're doing. And oh, by the way, here's the card of a editor. He really liked a book publisher. He really liked your piece on this, and they want to hear book ideas, so call him. So it was kind of this, hey, I want to help you, but also, by the way, people really like you, so go do this. So
well, she tells him, hey, you're writing great. That all leads eventually. I don't think it's a spoiler. He gets a book deal. I mean, he's that good.
He gets a book.
And he becomes a published author down the road. She also comes down Main Street and says, "You need to get laid."
Yes,
Like,
that's right. She says
She point blank says, "You need to get some friends, go get laid, have some fun, live life a little bit."
Be more of a person. You can be an introvert, but you still have to.
So his friends from the newsroom,
Yes.
get him set up with
Lois. Yes.
not Lois Lane. That would have been too.
Oh no, we've been way
much,
too
but-
on the nose. But I do love her reaction because she shows up. They introduce them and they say, "Hey, Clark, this is Lois," and she flips her lid and storms out. And he follows her and he's like, "Hey, hold on. Look, I did not know. I am very sorry. It could be." She's like, "This has happened so many times." And I was like, "Yes." He said, "It could be worse. I'm Clark Kent." And she was like, "Oh, well, fuck, that is worse." And so the funny thing is he's talking about, and my roommate set me up with a cat Grant. And she goes, "Is that from the comic books?" He says, "I have no idea. It could be. He for sure thought it was funny."
Yeah.
Just
My college roommate thought it was hilarious.
So that whole thing, and then he buys her dinner because she at first she's like no, and then she buys her dinner, and then they fall in love.
Yep.
I mean,
and then the feds set a boat trap for him.
Yeah.
The old boat trap.
The old boat trap. He gets trapped, and they take him. They have a big electrical thing that they hit him with. It's a gigantic fucking taser.
Yeah,
And
like a Superman.
Yeah, it's a Superman
powered
level
taser.
And they drop him, and then they take him, and he wakes up in the Bacta tank from
Right.
Star Wars. I mean,
It is.
And they realize, hey, he's waking up, because we find out later. He says, "Yeah, my body got used to what they were giving me, the sedative that they were feeding me, because they try to pump more in him and it wasn't doing any good." And he bursts out of there and he destroys everything in there. And then he walks into another room and there's just dead bodies,
And that's maybe where they mentioned something about the 12 others.
And children.
Like a baby.
There was like babies in there, and he flips his lid and he tears it up and takes off.
But he drags out, I don't know if you noticed, he does drag out some of the people with him.
Oh, does he?
That were
okay
into the snow, and then he isolates himself for, like he said, 4 days. It happened on a Friday.
Oh,
he
yeah,
gets out
and
on a Monday.
Yeah, he's having nothing to do with anybody or anything, and including Lois. And then he breaks up with Lois. Doesn't he?
Oh, see, did he?
No, he breaks up with. They break up.
I don't know. He just. I thought he was just a little standoffish.
No,
I didn't remember the breakup. Okay, my
they
bad.
broke up.
Okay.
They broke up.
Okay.
Or they, in all intents and purposes, he even says, I think we broke up. And then he decides that he can't break up with her. Instead, he has to tell her, because he thinks he's going to just stop doing all this stuff. But then he decides he can't, because he's actually helping people. I mean, my God, he's doing some amazing things. So he tells her, and she's like, "Holy shit, that's awesome." And then they end up getting married, because Lois and Clark get married, and everybody thinks that's hilarious.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh my God, the wedding invitations. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Okay,
so that's when she is a interior designer, a big time interior designer in New York, and I mean clearly, because she ends up owning a multinational design business. He gets a multi-book deal after he writes his, and they love his books. His books evidently are very good, very insightful, wonderful. So they move to Maine and build a house, and Maine
is beautiful, by the way, in the summer.
Excellent. But the main reason he's doing that is to take himself further from the main grid so he can hide what he does, including building a hollowed out tree, as he says, "Hey, comic books ideas are good for something." I loved that. And so he can dive down through that and come up in Boston Harbor from Maine. So he goes underground. He's burrowed his way all the way from Maine to Boston Harbor so he can pop out in Boston Harbor. So if they're searching for him, and he notices, what do you call them, listening devices in the harbor that he disables. I mean, he keeps finding all of this stuff, and it was interesting. And he keeps avoiding their traps, and he finally decides, when she gets pregnant. Isn't it when she gets pregnant?
When he decides he needs to figure out something more permanent, and he sets up a meet and greet with Malloy, the head Fed guy that's been investigating him. I just think of this as like an X-Files guy.
Yes.
Who's been tracking him. I think he even says, "Leave me alone. I can't do it." But at some point, I forget the order of events, but then to prove his point,
well, he's trying to get him to leave him alone and that he'll help them when they need him, because he's doing this stuff anyway, but he won't do politics stuff. But they're like, no, no, no. So he starts breaking into secret places and just doing sneaky ass fun stuff.
Like the Joint Chiefs of Staff open up their daily briefing and it has comic books in them. He breaks into the Pentagon and leaves a Superman thing on and does this to a couple.
He breaks. Yes, in the CIA, he leaves a Superman. The way he gets the meeting, he leaves a Superman statue on the thing with coordinates. And breaking into the White House. That was actually the White House. It was the briefing
where the Joint Chiefs meet in the
but in the basement with
room.
The president. Yeah, in the Situation Room. So, I mean, it was really funny. It was a very comic booky thing, but it was great. And he's like, look, I've never done anything wrong. You're just chasing me because you're afraid of me. And I saw what you did. I mean, he's very blunt. I saw what you did to all those people. And Malloy claims, well, that was before my time. I probably would have tried to do something about that. I liked how he said I probably, but he knows he wouldn't have been able to.
Right.
So, yeah, so they agree to work. He agrees to work with them, and then they use it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so he just starts doing errands for them. But I mean, not errands, but going to rescue people. And he doesn't like some
not
of the
political.
things. Well,
not political.
Some things were political. He did something that helped the current president get reelected because he wanted to take care of it earlier, but they wanted to wait a week for him to rescue the American citizens in order to help boost it. So he's pissed off about that because that was when his children were being born. So
that's right.
He has twin girls.
Yes, it's Carol and what are their names? Carol and Jane. Yeah, Carol and Jane.
Okay. And
they could have done bits there. They could have done like Lana.
Yeah, no,
and Martha.
They did not do bits, which was great. So they just move along. And go ahead.
But then eventually they get grandkids, and the boys' names that his girls have are Clark, Jimmy, and Perry.
Yeah,
which is brilliant.
No,
because at least it's not,
But to jump ahead, there's a reason why that is.
Why? Oh, because what do you mean? The girls?
One, it's the girls, and two, they're more superheroes at that point. There actually are superheroes in that world.
They talk about Mr. Swift, like Carol's dating Mr. Swift.
Yeah,
who was a government agent who can move fast.
So there actually are superheroes. So they were like, fuck it, carry the bit. And my guess is that they're out and people know that they're superheroes. Because that's how I kind of see it, because he finally writes his book about all of this. Even though he doesn't really talk about himself, he keeps himself. But we find out later that his twin girls have powers, and it's not even that much later from where we were talking about, because it just jumps because it's just stages. He's going through stages of life. And
no, I'm thinking of, what this also reminded me of just now.
What's that?
Marvels.
Yes, it's very much like Marvels. It's the same kind of. It's the beats.
They're documents.
Yeah, it's a document. Yeah. It's a journal. Okay. This is literally his journal, and this is the high points of his life from his journal, because he says he's the whole time. We're reading what he's typing out on that typewriter that was in the barn. And he says later he's still using that to write his stuff because he doesn't want it to be online where they could maybe get to it. It's paper. It's harder to.
But I did like at the end that Malloy, when he's pretty much done, he's older, and Malloy's
retiring. Malloy's retiring.
Oh, there you go. And Malloy says, "Look, I know."
No way. He calls him Clark. He calls him Clark.
Yeah,
but he didn't tell anybody. Look, he figured it out, but he didn't tell anybody.
He just says it was kind of a not very humble brag. He's like, well, I'm kind of good at what I do. I did eventually figure out who you were, but I kept it under my hat. Yeah. And everything's destroyed. There's nothing online.
And he said he even destroyed everything that he had that might possibly do it. I was like, I'm done, and I don't want.
I have kids too. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was it was just I'm getting even kind of chills talking about it. It was a really cool, awesome, touching, heartfelt, cool, weird Superman story that I really enjoyed. I was pleasantly surprised. I was afraid. I think I said this at the top. I was afraid when you suggested it. It was another tweaked Superman, which it is a Superman, origin story, but it was very unique and very well done and just different than anything I had read. So I loved it.
Yeah. Thanks for having no faith in me.
You're welcome. I don't know. It's just you usually do suggest good stuff. It's not that. It's just when I saw Superman Secret, I had no idea.
I got you. No,
I'd never read about it.
It's really And don't get me wrong. I like reorigining superheroes. Sometimes some of those are great when you do the other take. I did just reread, and because I saw it and I reread. I reread it. I didn't remember that I'd read it at the time. It's Superman Year One, so I read it, and by the time I got into the middle of it, I was like, "Oh wait, I have read this before," and I guess I didn't remember that I read it because it's good. I enjoyed it, but it was. I was reading it to see if maybe I wanted to suggest it later. I'm like, I'm not going to suggest that. It's good, but I honestly, this is one of the best Superman origin stories that has ever been.
Agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I absolutely really liked that.
So any more to talk about with the old Superman Secret Identity?
No, I think we've covered the awesomeness of my suggestion, and now we can probably move on to the awesomeness of your suggestion.
Cool. All right. Anything to take up in between the two comics?
There is no new information. We do have a website, havandcharles.com, where you can send us email, or you can just email us at havandcharlestalkcomics@gmail.com if you don't want to go to a website. havandcharlestalkcomics@gmail.com. Send us an email.
Also, the website's an easy place to go for links, to the different episodes. It's nice, all in one. So yeah, there's that too. And then my Twitter handle is at havgonzotweets. Charles is at herringredreel, and then the pod has a Twitter handle as well, J&C Talk Comics.
That is correct. So check us out there. We might actually be trying to do stuff on the social medias. Hav has decided that we should promote the show more. I don't know what steps he's taken to do that. I took a step by making a trailer. Now Now Hav has to run with that. I almost made 2 trailers because I was joking about after almost 3 seasons, we finally have a trailer. And then I was thinking about releasing the second trailer like 10 minutes after the first trailer. But I was like, I'll give it a week before I throw another one up. So
that'd be hilarious. Just rapid fire trailers.
It's just we're all trailers all the time. Well, it's not a bad thing. Maybe somebody can get a taste of Hav and Charles off the trailer and decide to listen to a full episode, because let's be blunt, we do have rather long episodes, so maybe people are trepidatious about dipping their toe in. But Hav suggested a comic based on characters from the great Jack Kirby called
Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle, and it was excellent. I just loved that comic. It is all about this superhero. I refuse to call these people gods. The idea that they're gods is ridiculous. They're not gods. They're no more gods than Thor and Odin in the Marvel universe are gods. But fine. So they're the new gods. They're a superpowered group that rules over non-superpowered people. They're actually fascist. Anyway, I mean, really, Darkseid is. But let's be honest, New Genesis doesn't seem that much better.
And Thor refers to himself as a god in the Marvel universe, and so it's not like, yes, they are aliens, but they all refer to themselves as gods. Now it's a bunch of bull, and and then, for example, we'll get into it, but Foragers people are the bug people, and they use them as cannon fodder in the one of the many Apocalypse New Genesis wars. Yeah,
New Genesis is not really that much better. I guess when they're not battling these wars and being used horrifically, they have a better life than what goes on Darkseid's world. What is that called?
Apocalypse.
Sorry, it's just so dumb.
It's a little on the nose.
Yes, that. And I'm bad at, don't get me wrong, I'm bad at naming things too, but really atrociously bad at naming things. So I get it, but I can still say, anywho. So
we're talking, go ahead. I was going to give a little background.
Yeah, go for it.
The characters. We're talking about Mr. Miracle, part of the fourth world that Jack Kirby created when he moved from Marvel to DC. And he created this whole world this whole pocket universe where it's only New Genesis and it's only New Genesis. It's only Apocalypse. Darkseid's the leader of Apocalypse. The High Father is the leader of New Genesis. And these gods, these superpowered beings, are in this constant on again, off again war between the two worlds. It's light versus dark. It's very black and white. And this all goes back to the fourth world that Jack Kirby created. There was a truce after one of the wars. Darkseid and High Father, part of the truce is they exchanged sons. So Orion, Darkseid's kid, goes to New Genesis. His name is eventually Scott-Free. Mr. Miracle, Highfather's kid, goes to Apocalypse to cement the truce. Growing up on Apocalypse sucks.
Well,
Granny
yeah,
Goodness.
You're just tortured. You
Yes.
get dropped in. You get handed to Granny Goodness, and they torture you. That's all they do. They literally just torture you. The scene where he has fallen down and it's something from their past, and she goes, stand, and he stands up and barks out standing, is because they would beat you and knock you to the ground and say stand, and you would stand up and say standing, and then they'd beat you down again. And it's just you just took the torture. The things they talked about doing to them, it is, I think, what makes it such a beautiful, wonderful comic book is nothing to do with the battles going on, because that's not. It's the two people, Scott-Free and Big Barda, who were broken, and they know they're broken, and they have made a life out of love and kindness, and they are moving past that, but they are broken.
There's an image at the end of towards the end of the comic book where there's some mirror that kind of shows how they really are.
It's Granny Goodness's mirror, yes.
And what they also talk about is that when Granny would do all this stuff to them, torture them, maim them, deform them,
yes,
break them physically and mentally, then she would fix them.
Yes.
With skin grafts, with medical procedures, far beyond our capabilities here on Earth, I'm sure. But then there's one shot where it shows them without any of that having. Oh my gosh!
What they would have looked like if all those things had not been cosmetically fixed, and they're just both ravaged and destroyed, and that's how they see themselves.
Right.
So they say because they're both looking in the mirror and they say, this is who I love. That's the thing. When they delve into all this horribleness, and we start out with he killed himself. He tried to kill himself. Yeah, yes. Which is understandable. I mean, he's just no, everything he's saying about Noah, it's the last escape. All that was just yeah.
No,
okay.
But there is a very big thing here. Let's I think we just get into it.
Okay.
The whole comic book is did he survive the suicide? Or did he not? Is this all in some kind of limbo where he's existing, or is it not? Or is he infected with the anti-life equation that destroys all hope? Or is it a combination of both? And I think, look, I'm just going to jump ahead to it. I think at the end, Charles, tell me, I think you figure out, or he figures out that he is in a kind of a limbo reality. I think. I could be wrong. He decides to stay there.
I think it's ambiguous, and I
think it is too. I think it is too.
I think he's more looking at this as this is. I'm going to tell you how I'm seeing it from this, because I don't think he's in a limbo. I think this is just what's going on in this particular universe, because that's what we have. We have all of these universes in that different things happen. So this is one where he survived his suicide. First, he was in a universe where he tried to commit suicide, and then he survives it. And this is what happens when he survives it. So it's a different. This is real. I don't think it's a limbo. I think it's real. I think he wants to think that because of the decisions he has to make, and that he's choosing to do something that he thought could cause something just horrific. But I think he wants to think that his decision doesn't have the power that it actually has.
And I think you're absolutely right about all of that. I think it was left purposely ambiguous.
Oh, absolutely.
But I will tell you, I did do a little bit of the Googling. There are a lot of theories out there, and a lot of people pointed to, of course, and they're theories. I think written by
Tom King,
Mitch Gerads, we mentioned that earlier. I think Tom King did this, not obviously, but on purpose, to leave it ambiguous. I think it's very much Inception-y.
Sure. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying what I think.
It's the same.
This is my theory. This is how it works better. It works very good to have it be ambiguous. I think it works good for his character, have it be ambiguous.
I don't know if Mr. Miracle has been back in the DC proper since this.
Okay.
Apparently right before this, I did do a little research on this. Apparently right before this, there was a thing called the Darkseid War, where Big Barda had left him to go back to be part of the Furies. And so there's a big theory out there, and this is just theories, that he prefers this universe because him and Barda are back together.
Sure.
And they have a couple kids. It doesn't mean it's not real. It's at least real to him, but it is awesomely done. Go ahead. It's awesomely done.
I know you have trouble with the multiverse. So what I'm saying and what I said is he could have committed suicide because Big Barda left him in that universe, but there could have been a split, one where he survived it because Big Barda was there, because remember, Big Barda saved him from the suicide.
Correct.
So there's two separate universes. So say she came back, saw him, and saved his life, and that could completely made a different universe.
Agree, or this is just kind of like an Elseworlds separate thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Kind of like I feel
that's
like
what
Adam Strange thing that we read that Tom King did.
I literally mean that's what makes it an Elseworld, is a split to create more than one universe. An Elseworld is a different world in a multiverse.
Correct. No, I know. It's fine.
Okay, well,
I agree. I don't think they're going to ever fold this back into the DC proper universe.
Oh,
is what I'm saying.
And that's fine. I think this works really well as a very standalone thing, and I liked it. I don't know why you don't always have to have things folded back in.
No, we don't. Big Barda. Another funny thing, and it is funny that a big player in this is a Jack Kirby creation, Funky Flashman. I don't know if, and that was created by Jack Kirby in the Mr. Miracle comic books from back then, and it was a complete direct swipe at Stan Lee.
Yes. Well,
and you even get go ahead.
They have Stan Lee, Funky Flashman, who, by the way, was written with great respect. If you really, if you look at, he was great, and you can tell he's Stan Lee in a moment. But they also had Mr. Miracle's Carney buddy, who was clearly Jack Kirby.
Well, Oberon.
Yeah.
Oberon was, well, and I don't know if, so Jack Kirby's born name was Jacob Kurtzberg, a Jewish kid from New York. I don't know if you noticed on the gravestone for Oberon, it's Oberon Kurtzberg. And then they name their son Jacob Kurtzberg. And then there's a whole great set of panels, a great scene where Funky Flashman is talking about how his creative buddy Jack draws all this stuff, and he just puts the words in, and they're talking about Galactus. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was such a great tribute to the whole. Oh,
everything,
I'm getting chills about
everything about this comic book was just gold. I loved it. When they're so in this, the High Father, or whatever the fuck his name is, of New Genesis dies. Okay, he dies, and Darkseid's Orion is now the High Father, and they immediately go to war with Darkseid. So
surprise.
Father and son, and he drags Big Barda and Mr. Miracle up there, or out there, in order to fight, and he is all hopped up on his power.
You have to kneel in front of him now.
Oh, yeah. And Mr. Miracle is just not having... I mean, he just attempted to survive a suicide, and he's drug up there. This guy who keeps calling himself his brother, and everybody's like, it's your brother. He's like, he's not my brother. I loved that. No. He's not my brother. We're not brothers, and I don't know why he's the High Father. It's because you.
I should be the High Father, maybe.
You could tell he doesn't want him to be the High Father, but he also clearly doesn't want to be the High Father.
Correct. I get that.
Yeah, but
Big Barda is great because Big Barda doesn't take shit from anybody. No. Light Ray is Orion's lapdog. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Light Ray is the guy. He's Orion's bitch. And he'll do whatever Orion tells him, and Big Barda is like, just no, just stop. And they have to kneel. Scott doesn't want to kneel at first. I don't remember that.
I do. They kind of force him to kneel. He's
and Big Barda kind of like, yeah, let's just do this.
Yes.
He kind of grabs his hand.
Yeah.
They're generals in the war, and it is massive casualties on both sides.
Yes.
It's a stalemate. This happens every so often, it seems like, in this New Genesis apocalypse thing, and they're going back and forth to Earth, like they're on shifts because eventually she gets pregnant.
Well, that was that was later.
Okay,
because I think Orion gets killed before that, but didn't it? Isn't that the?
I think they already had the kid.
I think he was High Father when she has the kid, because Orion goes nuts with his power.
Right. Okay. I think you're right. You're absolutely right, because Orion. Okay. There's a lot of. Oh my God. I have to reread this again. I'm going to butcher this word. entomological stuff about the nature of being. They talk about Descartes. They talk about, no, don't look at God, don't see God, or I have seen God, and God is me.
Well, that's the metronome or whatever his name is comes in.
Metron.
The metronome comes and
Metron. He's a great character. Metron.
Okay, Orion, stop trying to correct me. The metronome, Metron, comes to him and says, "You cannot look upon the face of God," and tells Scott Free that. And I love the fact that his name is Scott Free because he kept escaping, and Scott Free but you're never going to, and Granny, you're never going to escape except that motherfucker escaped, and he learns how to
Scott Free.
Yeah. He
did away scot-free.
He got away. He did eventually get away because he just kept learning.
Named a bit for the name. Huh.
Well,
just like Clark Kent.
That's a nickname. Nicknames are different. Nicknames are almost always bits.
But I'm just saying,
he
goes by scot-free.
That was an earned name. That is a badge of honor. I don't just in case this bullshit. I'm just in
casing it. You also find out or see. It's one of those things where you like your abuser, even though Granny Goodness was a son of a bitch. He still kind of get the feeling that was who brought him up. And
well, no, you don't.
They have that whole meet and greet where they're sent to kill her, and she loves them. He holds off. Big Barda's like, nope, we're doing this, and she kills her. It's
not. They had, when they're talking, Big Barda and Scott, they had a completely different relationship with Granny Goodness. Granny Goodness at times was kind, not as much as Granny Goodness could be, was at times kind to Scott. So she had a carrot and a stick thing going on. Well, she had a stick and
not as bad as stick.
Not as bad as stick. Whereas with Big Barda, there was nothing. There was no hint of kindness, no trickery of the abuser, because that is the terrible thing about an abuser, is that they can fool the abused into thinking that they're cared for. And so Granny either fooled him or did, in her sick and twisted way, felt for him as her. She looked at him as her son.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And that's, you see a kind disagreement from Barda's standpoint when they're talking about this, because she's like, yeah, I didn't get that. Because he'll tell her something. Well, didn't she do this? No, she didn't do that shit with me. Just this little bit. It's just that little bit that's going on. So it was horrifying when they talked about what they would do to them.
No, yes, it was bad.
And and the murdering. And so at one point, the High Father accuses Scott Free.
Orion.
Oh, Orion. Well, he's the High Father now, isn't he?
And I know he's the High Father, but when you say High Father, I'm always going to think of the guy with the beard, the white beard and everything.
He charges Scott Free with treason.
And decides he's going to be a judge, jury, and executioner.
Yes, and decides that they're going to kill him. And they're going to, and I love, and you, because you were charged, you get to decide where the trial will be, and he decides he's going to have it in his
living room.
Yes. These are places where you start getting the feeling that it could be a limbo type thing, because This is the place. Oh, I know. This is the place he loves, and he goes and gets a veggie plate. The veggie plate bit over and over. I just love the veggie plate.
Well, he has the recurring veggie plate. And then the other thing that makes you wonder if it's a limbo is he keeps on seeing people that have passed. Like, he has a whole scene with Oberon that is very real to him, and then his wife walks in and she's like, what are you talking about? Oberon died last year of cancer. Remember, with the cigars?
Of course.
And then later on, he has the thing with Forager, who Light Ray executes for being a traitor to Orion. And then he has a scene with him where he's talking to him, and he's talking about hell or heaven. It's done on purpose, and it's done very well. And you can
also,
go ahead. Yeah, the trial.
Hold on. You can also look at that as the abused child that tried to kill himself as an adult has some sort of psychosis that's causing him to hallucinate.
Sure. Oh yeah. No, he's obviously having some issues.
Yeah, it is just so well done. I may have to I'll read this again at some point, because it's so much and so deep and so wonderful. But yeah, they hold the trial in his living room, and didn't they?
Yeah.
And so no, I obviously, and it's not even really a trial. It's just, you're guilty. We're going to execute you, and this is when we're going to execute you.
Because Orion, show up 3 days later, you're going to get executed.
Yeah, and it's all bullshit. So they
No, it's a sham trial.
Yeah, and they decide that he and Barda decide that they're gonna kill him.
They're like, no,
I'm not executing you. We're gonna kill him.
I'm not going to let you execute me.
Yeah, now
I'm not going to let you kill me.
when they go, isn't that when we find out she's pregnant? Isn't that the conversation about the?
She tells. That's right. I think she tells him in the middle of.
Yeah, no. It is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen because it's another senseless fight scene in a comic book. No, it's not a senseless fight scene.
They're fighting their way through to get to him.
They're fighting their way through to get him because they're all like, "You'll bow, you'll do this," and they're just kicking the shit out of everybody in between them and Orion because Orion is going to carry out the execution himself. This is this sibling rivalry thing. The guy that thinks, well, you're my brother and I have to kill you so I can be the High Father. And Scott Free's like, I don't like you, but be the fucking High Father. I just won't agree with everything you do. So they are going there as they're doing it. Barda starts talking about remodeling their condo. Exactly. And that's this whole thing. And he cannot figure out, well, what's wrong with our condo? Well, we need another bathroom. Well, we have a bathroom. Yes, but we need to open this space. And she's just going through all of this. And he can't for the life of it. He's like, but then I'll have less things. He's like, no, it'll be fine. And then we'll have this other room. Why do we need another room? Well, for guests. Well, we already have the couch pulls out into a bed and the guests can do that and this and that. And then finally, I'm pregnant. And it's just one of the sweetest, longest. It amazed me that he put that together with that. Just the writing of it was just incredible. And the art timing. I mean, they're just bludgeoned. I mean, they're beating the crap out of gods because the two of them are fairly impressive in battle. And then they get to Orion and Darkseid has already killed him.
Yes, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. So it was just, oh, okay.
And then fast forward, and now Scott's High Father, and now he's in charge.
Yes,
and
that's when they're shifting. They're going back and forth because the baby comes, and one of them has to be with the baby, and that's where we meet Grandmaster Flash, who comes in, the Stan Lee guy. Flashman.
No, Funky Flashman's there from the beginning.
Well, I know, but that's when he's really there because he becomes a nanny.
Yes, that's true.
Because he's always there. Yes, he's always there.
They get Jacob the Batman doll that cannot be left in the crib. Come on.
Yes. You can't. Come on, Funky. That's right. Yes, the Batman one, and that's where you get the story about Jacob doing all the drawing and him. That's where that story is because he's telling the story to the baby, Jacob, but they're shifting. They're going back and forth, and then from Earth
to New Genesis Apocalypse War.
Yes,
right. Yeah,
and then they finally have enough, so they're doing it. They're trying to get a treaty, and they go and they're meeting. Oh my lord! In the middle of it when they're
Calabac.
Okay,
Calabac, Darkseid's second son.
Okay. Yeah. So when they're there though, and they go and he tells them, hey, can we take a break? I gotta use the facilities. Yes. And they're peeing into a pit onto a prisoner. I mean, it's just so, oh my lord.
The guy he goes with is Kanto, who's been around for a while, and you find out it's a really funny bit that they do where the first time they go to take a whiz during the negotiations, Kanto tells him about this whole thing about, I visited Earth, I liked Italy, I had a thing with Da Vinci.
Oh, that's right. That was hilarious.
He had a boyfriend at the time. And then later on, they're like towards the end of the negotiations, and they're going to take another piss together, and he's like, hey, by the way, I lied about the Da Vinci thing. I mean, I met him, but he had a boyfriend. He's like, why did you lie to me about that? He's like, I'm talking to the High Father, so I kind of felt like I needed to, I don't know, I almost said something like I need to step up my game.
I wanted to impress you by telling you I fucked Leonardo da Vinci.
I guess, yeah.
I'm gonna start using that.
I'm
going to tell people that they should be impressed with me because I had sex with Leonardo da Vinci.
That'd be weird, but I want you to start doing that, please. Okay, so everything's going pretty well. They've been negotiating for like only 3 days, and they're almost done. Everything's all but done. And then at the last moment, Calabac says, yeah, Darkseid said no. Here's his offer. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And it's, I want your son.
Yes. And that's the crux. That's where it comes in. That's the decision. We can continue fighting and we can continue doing all of these things, or you can give me your son like your father did. And that's the thing he and Barda are discussing, because Barda's like, fuck everybody else. Immediately, Barda's like, fuck everybody else.
No. Yeah,
look what we went through. My child is not this. And Scott is making the argument. He is not completely on board, but he looks at this, well, millions of lives versus one that happens to be my son. And then he says to her, that's when the conversation is really just so sad about, but we got over it. Look, we're fine. And she's like, bitch, please. We're not fine.
You tried to kill yourself.
You tried to kill yourself. We're in love, but we're broken people. We did not get past this. We can't get past this. What we went through cannot be gotten past. We can live, but I am not subjecting my child to this. And this is the decision that he has to make. And she's kind of, I'm surprised she's leaving it to him, which is like, yeah, okay. And then he makes the right decision. Let's kill Darkseid.
While he's doing that, though, I did like the whole part where he goes out with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and gets drunk, and he's still on the fence supposedly, but I never got the impression that he was really
no, he was against
taking it serious.
No, but the funny thing is, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle were telling him, yeah, well, you have to do that. Look at the it's one life versus this, and it's like, yeah, that's no. It's not. And it's not even that I'm a superhero. I saw what happened, and my guess is at the end of that first war, if Orion had figured out what happened, because the whole thing is, well, Orion did it, why won't you do it? He's like, yeah, I don't think Orion knows what I went through.
Highfather, the original Highfather.
Yeah.
The original
okay.
Highfather.
Sorry.
The gray beard guy, the gray hair guy.
I don't think the original Highfather would have done it if he'd have known the repercussions.
I also have to reread this because...
Or he would have, and he's an asshole.
Yeah. During the trial, there's also this whole thing about whether or not he's infected with this, yes or no, not what you believe. Are you infected with the anti-life equation? If you're infected with the anti-life equation, then this means this, and it's all about... Oh my gosh, it was
just a reason to executing. I mean, the whole execution thing was, I want to execute you and tell the truth. So he told the truth, and any truthful answer, one way or the other, it was a answer this way, and they're going to execute you. Answer that way, and then you're lying, and I'm going to execute you. So,
but it also goes to whether or not this is. It adds to the whole: is this real? Is it not? Is it in a limbo kind of thing? Which is again very cool.
Now, throughout the thing, there's always been the talk that the only one that can kill Darkseid is his son.
I was going to talk about the prophecy.
The prophecy,
and then what does that mean?
Yes.
Does it mean Orion, or does it mean scot-free?
Yes.
Or does it mean both?
Yeah, that was what was brilliant about this. Because at one point we learn about a way to, well...
There's a certain blade that only can cut the new gods.
Apocalypse.
Because remember, she's pregnant. I mean, she's giving birth.
Yes.
And the Furies come to the waiting room, which is hilarious.
Yes.
And they're all weird. But one of them says, hey, I was going to use this to kill you, Scott, but here, you might need this because, new gods, they're human instruments may not be able to do the job. So he uses it to cut the umbilical cord.
Yeah, and it was made from the only way you can make a blade that can cut someone is from the body of another new god. A dead new god. Yes. So he uses that blade to cut the umbilical cord and gives back the blade.
Correct.
So they do decide... They do decide that they're going to kill Darkseid. And we don't know how, because Darkseid is immensely powerful. And they bring the child because they're going to do the con. Or we're bringing the child. So they bring the child, he and Barda, and they bring a veggie plate.
They do. And Darkseid has a carrot. It's awesome. Orion had a carrot. It's a whole page, I think, of him crunching on a carrot. It's great.
I just
so awesome.
love that. That was all. It was so brilliant. The whole veggie plate thing. It was surreal. It could be limbo because it was surreal.
I know, it's awesome.
No,
it's awesome.
It's brilliant. Or it could just be a broken man that's like, fuck it. This is how I roll. I entertain, and there's always a veggie plate.
Can never go wrong with a veggie plate, Charles.
You can't. I love me a veggie plate.
Yeah.
I prefer hummus over ranch, but to each their own.
And I like the charcuterie on the side where you have some meats.
Yes. A nice meat display is always a nice touch. So it was. Go ahead.
Real fast. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. There's also, going back to when they're going to try to kill Orion and they don't know he's already been killed by Darkseid. There's a really funny part where two of the guards are just talking about fourth world. Why is this a fourth world?
Oh yeah,
what happened to the first three?
I'm
sorry.
That.
Before we get to the end,
great. Yes, that was great.
I mean, there's so many little things like that we're not even. I'm not remembering because I did take some notes, but it was just I didn't take notes till this morning and before we were going to get started. So go ahead. So you were talking about them facing.
They decide they're going to kill him, and then he takes out. He being Darkseid takes out Barda immediately.
Like no problem.
Yeah, it was nothing, and she's just lying there, and then he drops scot free, and it's like, no, this is going to end badly. And then wasn't it Big Barda yells stand?
Yeah.
And because we'd seen this before, and Barda yells stand, so Scott Free reacts to his apocalypse training and stands up, shouts standing, and then drives a knife into the eye of Darkseid.
And Darkseid had just taken out his eye for the Omega Beam as a trade, like to get rid of the anti-life equation or something.
That's right. That was what it was. Because that was the deal. Here, I have the anti-life. I'll at least, he can only use it with his eye. So he's trading his eye for the child. So he takes it out and he just jams this knife in him. And it turns out it was a knife made from Orion's body. Because, and Scott Free says, because only the son of Darkseid can kill Darkseid.
No, and you find the stand thing is also set up so beautifully because right in the first issue, after he tries to kill himself, thankfully unsuccessfully, we think, Orion shows up. It just immediately knocks him down and then says stand, and then knocks him down again. It says stand, and then knocks him down again and stand. Like 3 or 4 I mean, it's So it's sped up over and over again.
Yeah, but they do it over and over and over.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, at the end, it's the two. I mean, it's one of the two sons killed him. It's either or they both did, it's awesome.
They both did. It took the two of them.
So, and then they are pregnant again. Right after this, am I going high voice?
I don't remember that. There was just so much in that thing I was taking in. I
think she's pregnant with a girl this time.
Okay, good. Because they have to move out. They have to move out of their condo, and he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to move out. He loves his condo.
When they had the 3 days,
I love the fact that he loves his condo. Just throughout the whole thing, he's just. But I love how
they both love the condo.
Yes, I know. Well, it's their place. The horror they went through, and now they have their place.
In LA, which did you dig all the 405 and the talk in the car about? I was hoping.
Oh yeah,
when I was reading that
on their last day,
their last 3 days or last day or whatever.
Well, it was and they're trying to do all of their things, and they're like, well, we shouldn't have started here because it's going to be a hour and a half drive to get to there. And they were always
where they say, should we cut through Santa Monica or something? No, too many lights. Oh my god, we were just talking about that the other day, so I was just like, totally forgot about that in this one. That's awesome.
I did. I was like, yeah, I know all of that. That's great. That's so cool.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So I love these characters. Big Barda and Scott Free, since my reading of Justice League / Justice League International back in the 80s, where they were very quickly introduced to the team, them combined with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. That was fan service too, I think, by Tom King, because bringing Booster Gold and Blue Beetle in to get drunk with him when he's agonizing over the decision, and them, of course, getting drunk and him coming home drunk and all that. Just a very, very cool fan service, I'll just say, because he could have just not had them in at all, but he did that and had Oberon in there, although passed away. Oberon was part of that run back then too, of course. It was good. I on reread it. I mean, it hadn't been that long since I read it because it only came out in 2017, but. Shoot, that's already 5 years ago? More? Shoot, my math is terrible. 6 years ago going on.
Yes.
So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Any other?
No. I loved it. I mean, legitimately, one of the best comics I have read in a long time. I think I like it better than Superman's Secret Identity, and that's not a knock on that one because I love that one too. But I mean, if I have to put it up there, it is one of the best comic books I may have ever read.
So Tom King did also the one that I suggested, the Adam Strange.
Which I really enjoyed that too.
Not to compare them, but I am. Very different, obviously, but
very, very similar. It's got the same back and forth. I mean, now that you mention it, I didn't even think I was.
The wars going back and forth.
I liked this one better, but the going back and forth between the two things, it's the same. It's structurally very similar.
Okay, I want to make sure I wasn't going on a limb. I mean, I was like, it's kind of similar.
Now that you bring it up, it's a very similar structure with very similar characters in a lot of ways too. Because of what's going on. They both have clicky pens. They both have
babies in Jeopardy.
They both have babies in Jeopardy.
I don't know if he's doing it. Is he doing a thing? But maybe he can do this with Superman next. And
I don't know. I don't know that you can. I think these characters
take another character.
Well, these characters are very much set up for this because they have these two completely different
worlds.
Literally
different worlds.
Superman's other world has been destroyed, so it would be hard to do this with the same idea with another character.
Or has it? I don't know. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't know. I'm getting goofy.
Yeah, if not, as you know, every Kryptonian, with the exception of Superman, is evil. No, that's not true, because Supergirl is not evil. That was what I read, was that there was a Supergirl. He did a Supergirl run where she's in space, and I read that, and I'll probably be suggesting that at some point. The Tom King one that I read before I read this, because I was like, oh, this is great too. This is great. Well, because I thought, this is great. I don't think Mr. Miracle can be as good as this. And then it was better. And it was better because it's a completely different character, one I'm not familiar with at all in any way whatsoever. And it just made it, I mean, I knew the name, but I don't know that character in any way whatsoever. The most I've ever seen him was when we read Justice League, and he's a bit player in that. Yeah, he was. He was a very small bit player in that. And holy cow, that was just so well done. This is where comic books can be art, and not just because it's drawn, but just
this Mr. Miracle comic book run, 12 issues. Didn't feel like 12 issues. I read it. I got through it incredibly quickly. Also,
I didn't want to put it down.
I'm glad. And tell me what you think about this. I think you just said as much. Somebody that doesn't know a darn thing about Fourth World, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, they do a pretty good job at the beginning of the synopsis, I think, of telling you where it's coming from. Does it help to know a little bit more? Are there some Easter eggs you maybe would have missed or not gotten? Like Jacob Kurtzberg, like the kid, naming the kid Jacob, Oberon's last name being Kurtzberg. But I think somebody could jump into this without
I don't think that has anything. I don't
anything about the backstory.
I don't know jack shit about the Fourth World. Every time I read it, it annoys me, so I stop. So no, I don't know that much about it, and it didn't affect me in any way whatsoever.
Exactly.
It's not, if you know about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, you're going to get those. I mean, it's so blatant. The Stan Lee thing is so incredibly blatant. I mean, it was just, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I'm not. It's not a knock on it, but it was great. It was a beautiful homage.
Yay for both of us. No, these were really, like I said, I think I was going back and I didn't go look at the list, but I don't remember liking. I mean, I've liked both of our suggestions before.
Well, you like both of our suggestions always. I mean, you've never not liked anything, so it's a different thing.
Immonen also did. I'm just going to let that go. Immonen also did the art on Next Wave. I was trying to figure out where his name was familiar. He did the art on Next Wave.
Oh, the comic we didn't talk about.
Exactly. And there's that. So it's been fun doing the podcast. I guess this is the last podcast. We're not suggesting anything for next time, or are we going to do another one?
I have an idea of what we're going to read for the next one. This is not the season finale. And by the way, that was one of the things I put in the synopsis of the trailer. We're almost through 3 seasons, and pending renewal, season 4 will be in 2024.
There you go.
Pending renewal.
Cool. No, I do have a suggestion. I know what I'm going to suggest. Would you like me to go first?
I would like you to go first.
These two suggestions combined, the one I suggested this last time, Mr. Miracle, and your suggestion of Secret Origin, what was it called? Superman
Secret Identity.
Secret Identity made me think of this comic. So I'm suggesting Sentry from the year 2000.
Okay, that's a Marvel comic, right?
It is, and it is on the Hoopla, and I will send you a screenshot.
Yeah, I think I've read some of that. That's the insane superhero, or is this something different? Yes, it's the.
Well, yeah, he's got some mental health issues.
Okay, cool. Yeah, send me the link.
I will.
Excellent. I am going to suggest another part of the Hawkeye run that we read a few years ago, but it's when Kate Bishop goes to L.A. That was why I was asking you that question before we started.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked about it, but it's volume, let me look it up. It's volume 3 of that run on Hoopla. Yeah, it's a Hawkeye volume 3, LA Woman. And it's when Kate Bishop, the real Hawkeye, goes to LA. And it's obviously by Matt Fraction. And you know how I feel about him. He is awesome.
You love him.
I do.
You love him.
I do. As a comic book writer, I absolutely just adore him. And so that is what we'll read for me. So we're going to do 2 Marvels after we just did 2 DCs. That was interesting.
I was going to say, there's a little symmetry there, and not on purpose.
No, nothing we do is on purpose.
No, obviously. I was going to mention, we are recording this on September the 9th. And we're going to probably have a few more episodes before Halloween, maybe. I don't know. How many episodes do we usually do a season, Charles?
I don't know. We generally end the Friday, the last episode is the Friday of, or at least the last 2 years, we dropped the last episode the day after Thanksgiving. So
Okay, fair.
if you count from, you can figure it out from there. I don't know right off the top of my head how many we're doing. I just kind of, at some point we have to kind of ramp down, because this episode is dropping on the 29th of September.
Holy crap, are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow, we're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
It makes it easier on me if we can.
I know. No,
if we
good.
stay a little ahead. So that's why I had us. So I've got a week to edit this one, and a week to edit the one I haven't edited yet, and then a few weeks to edit this one. So
the reason I mentioned is because Halloween's coming up, and some of my next few suggestions may be Halloween.
Okay. Well, they'll be dropping in. Well, not the next one will start dropping in October. So
yeah,
and then the next one will definitely drop in October. So
yeah. So yay. Okay, cool. Well, hey, Charles, thank you for doing the podcast with me. Thank you for doing all the production, editing, everything you always do. And thank you, Patrick, as usual, for anything and everything you do for the website and for us. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you for everybody who's listening. And if anyone has any suggestions on how we can promote our show better, you can email us, and then we'll get Hob working on that. So
yay!
Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Bye.
Bye.